With Indiana Jones 5 right around the corner, I wanted to talk about a forgotten piece of Indiana Jones media. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, also known as The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones. Back in the 90s, after completing the original trilogy, George Lucas had plans on making a TV show about a young Indiana Jones. Lucas wanted the show to be educational because he thought that Indiana Jones could have lived through a lot of the biggest events in history and could have met a lot of important people in history. On paper, this is actually an amazing idea because Indiana Jones kind of lived through history. The 1910s and the 1920s were filled with historical events, and teaching people about those historical events with an Indiana Jones TV show is kind of perfect. Now, this sounds like an amazing idea for a TV show, but remember, it was made by George Lucas. Now, the show is nowhere near as bad as any of the Star Wars prequels, but it has a lot of problems. But if you can get through those problems, you can actually find a really entertaining Indiana Jones show. So put on your fedora and grab your bullwhip because today we're going to be taking a closer look at the adventures of young Indiana Jones. Let's start at the very beginning. Kid Indiana Jones, played by Corey Carrier. I think the Kid Indy episodes, as I like to call them, are okay. I think the Teen Indy episodes that show up later in the series are way better. And it's not because they're not worth watching, it's because they're not worth watching as much as the Teen Indy episodes. There are a few good moments here and there, but I personally would not watch an entire episode for just a few good moments. Some of the Kid Indy episodes are bad and some of them are pretty decent, but regardless, if you're looking for the very best from this show, you're not going to find it in these episodes. One of the Kid Indy episodes that did stick out to me was the one where Indiana Jones met Theodore Roosevelt in Africa. I really like the message of the episode. The message isn't don't hunt, hunting is bad. The message is don't overhunt. One thing I do like about these episodes is Corey Carrier's take on Indiana Jones as a kid. I try to make Indy curious, very curious, but not so far as to be a brat, just a little mischievous. He's a normal kid. This is exactly how I imagined Indiana Jones would act as a kid. Throughout the Kid Indy episodes, he's always asking questions, but he's never trying to be annoying. He's always asking them out of genuine curiosity. I always thought that Indiana Jones as a kid would be very curious and would want to know more about things he doesn't understand. He would always want to know more about the world and its history, and that would eventually lead him to becoming a teacher and an archaeologist. I really like Corey Carrier's take on Indiana Jones as a kid. Now let's talk about the Teen Indy episodes because this is where the show starts to get good. This is where we get episodes about World War I and treasure hunting, and this is where we get the best episodes in the show. A young Indiana Jones, played by Sean Patrick Flannery, goes to visit his cousin in New Mexico. While there, his cousin proposes a plan to sneak across the Mexican border to have some fun. They convince their parents that it's only a camping trip and they travel to the border. But before they can have any fun, the Mexicans attack. In the process, one of the townswomen is robbed, and because Indiana Jones is just such a gentleman, he decides to go after the robber on horseback. He stops the man but ends up getting captured by Mexican troops. He's sentenced to a firing squad but gets spared by General Pancho Villa. In return for his life, Indy has to serve in the Mexican Revolution. While there, Indy recognizes an old enemy from his past, Demetrius. Many years ago, he killed a friend of Indy and stole the precious head of the jackal. Pancho Villa discharges Indy, but after hearing their side of the revolution, Indy decides to willfully join them. Indy fights in a couple of battles, but after a while he realizes that maybe this isn't his revolution. He talks about it with another soldier named Remy, and the both of them agree that the Mexican Revolution is not their war. Remy tells Indy that he's going to leave the Mexican Revolution to fight in World War I because he wants to die fighting for his own country instead of someone else's. Indy wants to join Remy because he believes that the war in Europe is the war that needs to be fought. Indy agrees to join Remy, but not before wrapping up some unfinished business. Indy rides to Demetrius' hideout to try and recover the head of the jackal. Indy finds the stolen artifact but is attacked by Demetrius. They get into a cool fight, Indy uses his bullwhip, the building explodes, and the jackal is recovered. The next morning, Indy joins Remy and they ride off into the sunset. Indy would later go on to fight in World War I, and the lessons he learned in the war would shape him into the hero that we all know and love. The war episodes are pretty good. They have a lot of action, they're pretty interesting, and they have that Lucasfilm charm to them. But unfortunately, there were some episodes that were pretty boring. These episodes had to do with stuff like jazz, stage shows, and 1920s film, and while that stuff is really interesting, it has nothing to do with Indiana Jones. The war episode showed Indy learning a lot of valuable life lessons, and it showed how the war had a huge impact on his life. But all of these episodes about jazz and stage shows just don't have anything to do with Indiana Jones or his life. George Lucas wanted to use this show as a way of teaching us about jazz and stage shows, but if I'm being honest, it just doesn't work. The episodes are not bad, it's just that I would personally skip these when watching the show. Before we talk about all of the good stuff in this show, let's talk about the rest of the problems. Let's just get the biggest problem out of the way, Indy's love life. Throughout the show, Indy has like 50 relationships and all of them suck. He has zero chemistry with any of the girls he's with, and there's so many of them in this show that it gets annoying. In almost every episode of the show, he's with somebody new that has to be bland, uninteresting, and has zero chemistry with Indy. Every relationship that Indy has in this show is very forced, and I do mean very forced. Watching this show really makes you appreciate how much better the love interests from the movies were. And it was such a big problem with the show that even the writers acknowledged it by making an episode where Indy dates 3 girls at the same time and gets dumped by all 3 of them. Hey man, you're no Harrison Ford. One nitpick that I do have with the show is that none of the music from the movies returns in the show, but they did make up for that with a pretty good soundtrack. Another nitpick that I have with the show is that there are not a lot of returning characters from the movies. The only characters from the movies that make an appearance in the show are Indy's dad Henry and Marcus. But if we had gotten another season, we would have seen more characters from the movies make an appearance. We would have seen a young Belloc, a young Marion, and a young Abner Ravenwood. And if the show had gotten another season, we would have seen more episodes about treasure hunting. Other than the head of the jackal, there's only one other episode in the show where Indy actually goes treasure hunting. In the episode, Indy goes after the Eye of the Peacock, which happens to be the same diamond from the Temple of Doom. This is one of my favorite episodes from the show because it actually felt like I was watching an Indiana Jones TV show. There's an artifact, there's a villain, and there's an adventure, and I feel like that's what the show needed more of. It also has that Lucasfilm feel to it that really makes it feel like you're watching Indiana Jones. Another thing about the show that I don't like too much is Sean Patrick Flannery's performance as Indiana Jones. Sometimes it feels like I'm not watching Indiana Jones and I'm watching somebody else. I don't hate his performance, but I much prefer River Phoenix's. River Phoenix was the perfect choice for a young Indiana Jones, and I'm not sure as to why they didn't bring him back for the show. I think Sean's performance is passable. It's not terrible, it's not amazing, it's okay. I just think he wasn't the best choice for Indiana Jones. Remember how George Lucas wanted this to be an educational show? Well, that backfired. The show featured a lot of historical figures, but the problem was that a lot of them were not easily recognizable. This made it very hard to tell which characters were historical figures and which ones were actual characters made for the show. I recognize some of the characters like Theodore Roosevelt, but I have no idea who the rest of these people are supposed to be. The show tries to teach us about these people, but because we don't know which characters are based on real people and which ones aren't, it makes it very hard. If only there was somebody there to tell us which characters were based on real people and which ones weren't. Well, there actually was a character made to solve this problem. Old Indiana Jones. That's right, in the show we get to see an old Indiana Jones telling stories about his adventures. In the episodes, he would tell us which characters were historical figures and which ones had an impact on history. I really like George Hall's take on Indiana Jones as an old man. As an old man, Indy becomes kind of like a storyteller. He can't go on adventures anymore, so he tells people about the adventures and the experiences that he's already been through. Just imagine the amount of stories that an old Indiana Jones would have to tell. He could tell you stories about World War I, he could tell you stories about World War II, he could tell you stories about all of his adventures. He would have so many stories worth telling. I feel like this makes perfect sense for Indiana Jones' character. What if the show gets a reboot and we get to see an old Indiana Jones played by an old Harrison Ford? How awesome would that be? Well, there actually was an episode where Harrison Ford returned to play Indiana Jones as an old man. In the episode The Mystery of the Blues, we get to see Harrison Ford donning the fedora once again. He's only in the episode for like 5 minutes, but man is it awesome. It's awesome to see Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones again, and because it has that Lucasfilm charm to it, it really feels like you're watching a piece of an Indiana Jones movie. Harrison Ford's acting in this is also great because you can tell he's having a lot of fun playing Indiana Jones again. And it also has one of my favorite Indiana Jones lines of all time. I'm going to play the scene, but try to find the original if you can because I'm going to have to chop it down because of copyright.
They've got guns.
They've got the pipe.
Well, things can't always be the way you want them to be. But sometimes they are.
Aw, hell yeah, Indiana Jones and the Pipe of the Natives. I can't wait to see where this... okay. Man, I really wish they had just continued the story from this episode. It would have been awesome. But if Old Indy was there to fix the problems with the historical figures, then why is it still a problem? Well, you know how George Lucas likes to screw around with things that were already fine? Well, it turns out Han Solo wasn't his only victim because he would later go after Indiana Jones. After finishing the show, George Lucas would repackage the episodes into HD hour-and-a-half long movies. I think the repackaged episodes are fine, but the problem is that George Lucas got rid of Old Indy in the process. Now, to be fair, George Lucas had a few good reasons as to why he would want to remove Old Indy. There are some inconsistencies with the Old Indy episodes because of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. In the show, Indy has an eye patch and a daughter, and of course he doesn't have those in the movies. And we all know that The Last Crusade was not Indy's final adventure, and it still won't be Indy's final adventure with the Dial of Destiny. If they want to do something with Indy and the Dial of Destiny, they can't do it with the old Indy episodes in the way. What if the Indiana Jones at the end of the Dial of Destiny is drastically different than the one from the show? You can't really do anything with an old Indiana Jones if an old Indiana Jones already exists. Even though Old Indy is no longer canon, I don't think this concept of Indiana Jones should be forgotten. George Hall's take on Indiana Jones is the perfect place to take his character, and I hope that isn't erased. I know I've been talking trash about this show for the whole video, but let me talk about the stuff that I actually like about it. Like I said earlier, the war episodes and the treasure hunting episodes are a lot of fun to watch and are some of the best episodes in the show. In comparison to other stuff that George Lucas has made, these episodes are actually really well put together. I'll leave a list of all the best episodes in the description. Like I said earlier, the show actually has a really good soundtrack that is honestly underrated. Another thing about the show that is very underrated is its production value. You can definitely tell that a lot of money was spent in the production of this show, and it honestly shows on the screen. I didn't mention this earlier, but there's actually a lot of awesome cameos from Star Wars actors and Indiana Jones actors in this show. One of my favorite cameos is Paul Freeman, the actor that played Belloc, returning to play a different character in the show. You can tell he's having a lot of fun being in the Indiana Jones franchise again. I would talk a little more about this show, but I want to encourage you to check it out for yourself. Overall, I would say that the show is good. It's not amazing, it's not as good as any of the movies because it has so many problems, but I would say that this is a good show. I think there's a lot of good things about this show, and I think when it peaks, it's actually really good. I would recommend this show to anybody who's a massive Indiana Jones fan like I am, and if you're looking for more Indiana Jones content, then you might like this show. Even though Disney Plus should have the show, the only streaming service that I know of that has this show is Paramount Plus. There are some people that have uploaded full episodes of the show to YouTube, but I'm not really sure about the legality of it. There are some rumors going around saying that Disney wants to reboot the show, and if they do, then here's some things that I think should and should not return in a reboot. I really want to see more of the dynamic and struggle between Indy and his father, because I feel like that's one of the things that the show really did not expand upon. Don't make episodes about jazz, stage shows, and solving mysteries, because that stuff just has nothing to do with Indiana Jones. Try to focus more on the better stuff in the show. Focus more episodes on treasure hunting and World War I, because those were the best episodes in the show. Dial down the amount of relationships that Indy has in the show, and dial down on the amount of historical figures that show up in the show. Give us more characters from the movies, and give us some more cameos. And finally, bring Harrison Ford back to play an old Indiana Jones. Who knows, maybe Disney will learn from the mistakes of history to make a better show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, please make sure to like and subscribe. I really put a lot of effort into this video. This is actually my 2-year channel anniversary video. That's right, I made my channel 2 years ago and I've been uploading for the past 2 years. It's insane to me how fast time flies and how much someone can improve in those years, and just in just a year or 2 years. It's crazy to me how much someone can improve. I look back at all of my old videos and they all sucked, and I'm just so happy. I'm so happy that I've improved so much since then, and I really am just so grateful for that. This video that I made, it's like my passion project. This video that y'all just watched was my passion project. I put so much effort and love into this video and concentration into this video. It took me forever to make because I wanted it to be perfect, because this was a video that I wanted to make for the longest time, and I finally got around to making it with the PC, and I put so much just effort into this video because I wanted it to be special. I really wanted it to be special, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really hope you all enjoyed it. I also hope that a lot of people watch this one because I put a lot of effort into it. I don't want that effort to go to waste. I hope at least we get maybe 500 views on this video, 1,000. I'd be happy with that. But thank you guys so much for watching my channel for the past 2 years and sticking with me for the past 2 years. I appreciate all of the support. I appreciate everything, and I'm very grateful for it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. God bless you guys, and I'll see you all next time.